Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now, here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Mike, and with me is Dr. Gordon. Welcome, Gordy.
Hi, Mike, and welcome to the Health Angle Podcast, where we take a different health subject each week or each episode with the goal of optimizing our viewers' health potential. So we'll give tips and health hacks and everything that we can to share with you to hopefully inspire and give you ideals of what you can do. And today we're doing part 2 of our top 20 health hacks or health tips. If you haven't seen part 1, we go through our first 10 health hacks and health tips, and I encourage you to go to part 1. So part 2, Dr. Mike, we're going to cover 10 health tips, and I'm going to let you lead us out.
All right. My first one in the part 2 is to optimize circulation and lymph movement. Dr. Gordy, I'd really like to do a complete podcast on how to stimulate lymph junction points, and it's a demonstration where you do 6 points to make sure your lymph drains properly, because it's the only thing in our body that doesn't move. So with that said, once I do these 6 points in the morning, I use 3 different things. I use a chi machine, a vibration plate, and or a rebounder, a mini trampoline. I choose one of those 3 every day to make sure my lymph is moving. And it's really, really critical for our immune system to have our lymph flow and move, because our immune system captures toxins and makes antibodies and captures viruses and bacteria, and they get stored in our lymph. And we want to make sure we take out the garbage and the trash by helping our circulation. So we can dive deeper into a later podcast about those 6 points and how to really optimize your lymph. But I love chi machine, vibration plate, and rebounder to help lymph and circulation.
That's great, Mike. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Mine is vitamins and supplements. And I know it'd be ideal to get it through a normal diet, which would be encourageable. The only problem is that we don't get the right fruits and vegetables and other healthy foods and multiple vitamins. There's a nutritional gap because of all the depleted soils and the toxin chemicals in foods and other nutrition depleting, food preparation and manufacturing. And all this contributes to not getting probably enough of the most pertinent supplements and vitamins that we need. I know we all have our own bio-individuality. We all need different supplements based on our own system processes these vitamins. So I'm going to go through real quick what I recommend. A multiple vitamin, make sure it's like a highest quality. And I personally use an organic protein that has 50 superfoods, as well as a whole bunch of multiple vitamins. And I use that, like I've talked in previous podcasts, in my smoothie. So that's my multiple vitamin. I would recommend a high quality probiotic, 8 to 10 different strains, and a count of 20 to 30 billion colony forming units. And you can see our past episode on gut health podcasts, and that would go into more detail. And then turmeric or cerumen, these are the most potent antioxidants out there. And if you're exposed to too much sun, too intense with your workouts, or you're eating poor food choices, you'll get free radicals that basically release to other cells and make them unstable. And we need this supplement to really neutralize those negative effects. It also reduces inflammation in our body. And you can check out our past podcast on anti-inflammatory, and it goes into a lot more detail. So this supplement also reduces depression symptoms, arthritis, digestive disorders, respiratory infections, allergies, and the list goes on. And then there's an omega-3 supplements. That's a good fat, very essential. Unfortunately, we get so many bad fats through our typical American or Western diet that our bad fats severely outnumber our good fats by a ratio of 20 to 1. Where we should be getting a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 ratio. In other words, omega-3, which are the good fats, should be 1 to 1 omega-6 or a bad fat. So 1-to-1 is normal, and we're getting a 1-to-20 and too many bad fats. So we should really go out of our way to get those good healthy fats, and supplementation is a good way to do so. And then vitamin D with vitamin K together. They make them in a joint supplement. And vitamin D3 it's getting a lot of good attention. And a lot of people are lacking vitamin D. And of course, that's what we get out in the sunlight. We get our vitamin D. And of course, there's studies that are linking getting cancer and inflammatory type of problems due to not getting enough vitamin D. Vitamin D also enhances calcium absorption and also ensures that the bones are getting enough calcium due to the vitamin D and vitamin K. Also, it helps with cardiovascular health, helps with mood and affect as well. And then, Dr. Mike, in the past, you've talked about just like you switch up your exercise program to stimulate the body and do something different. Same thing with supplements. And I agree, Dr. Mike. In past episodes, you said make sure you get the high quality brands, but switch them up every so often so your body just doesn't get used to it. That is my next health tip. And
Great.
back to you, Mike.
Thank you for that. It's really important. Most people I know that are really in peak physical health take some kind of a supplement. Some people call them a complement to their healthy diet. And so, yeah, I take supplements, and I take most of those that you mentioned too. So thank you for that. Number 2 for me is grounding mat or grounding sheets. If you're interested in learning more about grounding, grounding.com, or you can search grounding sheets. There's 3 companies that sell grounding sheets. So right now I have bare feet, and I'm touching a mat with my bare feet that has a wire going to the ground of an outlet. So technically it's similar benefits of touching the earth. And why does that matter? Because it's anti-inflammatory. And so the earth frequencies balance out and cancel the bad EMFs. And so fortunately, if you're in a big building or you can't turn off your Wi-Fi, even if you don't have a computer or Wi-Fi or cell phone, our neighbors do. And so a lot of people choose to use a pillowcase or a sheet that's grounded to an outlet and enjoy deeper, better sleep, better circulation, and anti-inflammatory effects as well. So I love grounding products.
That's great, Mike. And this goes right into my next health tip, and that's the electromagnetic frequencies. And we've had a podcast on just this alone. So I would encourage our viewers to go back and check out the list. Dr. Mike and I, we don't review what we're sharing. We're just kind of doing what we feel is our top. So this kind of segues into very similar concepts. So EMFs, they're passing through us at every moment and every day. And it's a combination of radio waves, TV waves, cellular waves, overhead lighting, internet Wi-Fi signals. So everyone should have some degree of EMF protection, either at their workstation and on their personal business phones, as well as their workstations, computers, along with EMF protective floor mats like Dr. Mike was just talking about, scarves, clothing, and the product list goes on and on. And too much EMFs can lead to headaches and fatigue, stress, sleep disturbances, skin symptoms like prickling or burning sensations, even rashes, pain and aches in the muscles, and the list goes on. And EMF, too much, can lead to DNA damage, which can lead to cancers as well. So that is my health tip as well. Mike, on to you.
Very important information. People think it's weird to put something on a cell phone. I wear something, a Q3 bracelet. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and I think it really matters.
It really does. I agree with you, and I do the same.
Number 3 for me is something called Apollo Neuro. It's a wearable vibration device, apolloneuro.com. And I use it mostly at night when I want to read. Since I get up early, sometimes I take a nap. There's a frequency that you can set on an app that helps you focus. So I really like that. Helps you calm down if you want to before bed. And then I also use it during sleep. It goes for the first 2 hours of sleep. So when I wear it, it improves my deep sleep so much, I usually don't wake up during the night, which is great. And there's a lot of science. ApolloNeuro.com, you can really look into the science if you're interested in something like a wearable during the day to help focus and energy or to calm and relax. Pretty interesting technology and pretty good science behind it. So that's another hack that I use, Dr. Gordy.
That's great, Mike. And I just put that on the screen so people can read where to get that from the website. And that leads into maybe an overlap here. And I say shoot for 8 hours of sleep per night. Keep electronics away from your sleep station and don't play on your computer or cell phone 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, because that can disrupt your sleep. Keep your bedroom dark, a little bit cooler, and be consistent with your bedtime rituals and routines. Your positive thoughts and your good energy rely on a good night's sleep, as well as your general productivity and overall health. So please visit our past episode where we dive into this very deeply, and it's all about sleep and strategies. And Dr. Mike, what's your next tip?
My number 4 for this episode is something called InfoPathy. We never rehearsed this, obviously, Dr. Gordy. You probably think I'm a gadget freak, and that's okay. InfoPathy, infopathy.com. I can take a 1 or 2 ounce bottle of salt water, shake it up, and I can infuse basically any supplement or any product that I want in there, and energetically make like a homeopathic remedy and then put it under my tongue and experience the benefits from that. Infopathy.com. It's really kind of neat to, if you want to try a different supplement or a different thing, you can make your own supplement technically, or your own remedy. And so I choose to do that to optimize my health as well. Infopathy.com. Pretty cool.
Yeah, Mike, I probably have the same question as a lot of our viewers. Like, where do you get all this health tip information? Because I'm like in the Stone Age still, going with the basics, and you pull out all these incredible electronics. So what inspires you to get all those electronics, and where do you find them? I'm sure our viewers are like, where is this coming from?
You know, I live in the Northwoods in Minnesota, so, you know, we don't have a lot of fancy stores and a lot of things. So, you know, I've consumed a ton of information in my 30-year career. I follow like bengreenfieldfitness.com, Dr. Joe Mercola, you know, the Bulletproof founder, Dave Asprey, Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley. I'm just looking at his book, The Buddha and the Badass, and The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And I just follow people like that. And Zach Bush, MD. So I follow, you know, chiropractors, medical doctors, you know, healers, different things. And they share their favorite tips that optimize their health and well-being. So they're most of them are big fans of chiropractic as their foundation to help their brain and nervous system function optimally. And then they use other biohacking type equipment just to supplement a really good healthy lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, I don't search a lot. I really don't search very often, because I trust the 6 or 8 different people that I follow. And when they recommend something, then I'll do some research on it, but they'll give me links to the websites and other things. And so people say, well, where do you search? What do you do? I use Brave browser personally, but I don't want to search a lot, because it is confusing out there. Who's paying the most advertising to get to the top of the page? So I trust my mentors and sources of information.
I'm sure the viewers are inspired by that. And I'm going to ask you one more question before we get into our next health hack. Mike, out of all those different types of gadgets, I don't want to call them gadgets, because they do help with your health and they are backed with research. But if you had to pick one, I know you covered a few in part 1 as well as so far in part 2. Which one is your absolute must of top electronic type of component that you use for health?
From the first episode we did, my sauna, because it has far infrared, near infrared, red lights, ozone in it. By far and away, I did my sauna today at 5:05 this morning. That's my number one thing. But right now, I would do grounding. Is number on this episode. I still have one more to cover, my number 5, but I would do grounding probably, because I'm inundated by Wi-Fi and electronics. So I would do some kind of a grounding EMF protection type as my number 1 today.
Oh, that's great. So my next one, Dr. Mike, is goal setting. And we also covered this on a podcast, and I'd highly recommend going back and checking this out as well. And of course, there's short-term, long-term, personal and professional goals. Write them out. Write out as if your life depends on, because if you ink it, you'll start to think it. If you start to think it, it all becomes reality. Journaling. Dr. Mike, you talked about that during our podcast on goal setting, journaling and putting vision boards out there. I know I was inspired by Mark Victor Hansen, that I saw him speak, and he said, write down 101 lifetime goals. I was game. I did that. And unfortunately, I lost that list. But decades later, I found it again. And I looked at that and I was amazed how many lifetime goals that I had already accomplished. So I'd encourage you to just write things down, write down professional goals. And then sometimes for me personally, Mike, I get under stress or I worry about something, and it could be a decision I have to make or a conflict. And what I do is I write down the instant, what's going on? What's this factor that's causing me stress? And I'll write it down on paper, and I'll write a pro and a con, and I'll write down the different scenarios, the pro and a con. And I find when I put it on paper, it gets out of my head and I don't have to think about it. Just takes some of the stress off me constantly thinking over and over and over. And that helps me personally. And then we all get in these negative cycles where we're just in a bad place. We're just negative. Maybe it's the news that perpetuated into that cycle, but we all go through it. And what I recommend is writing down 3 positive things that happened to you during that day. At first, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what happened to me that was positive for the day? And at first, you might not be able to think of things, so you just write down the small things that may have happened. And then pretty soon, you start filtering in nothing but the good things and unfiltering the bad things. And pretty soon, your affect and your outlook becomes much more healthier. Start to bring in the positive things and dismiss the negatives. And it's a good place to be. And this is a good exercise to do. And there's a quote by Alan Saunders that says, life is what happens to us when we're making other plans. So I say make plans by setting out your goals, and you'd be surprised how those become reality. So that's my health tip. Mike, on to you for the last and final tip.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And that's really cool that you wrote down 101 goals and got to achieve a lot of that. And it was probably ingrained in your subconscious. So you think, well, I don't have the list to look at every day, but that's really, really, really cool, Gordy. And back at you, what is your absolute #1 health hack that you would put at the top of the list?
You know, Mike, I've talked about this before. I think the exercise for me, because I think it brightens your affect. It makes you more confident, makes you feel better. Your body fat is well within the body mass index norm or below. You get lower body fat and you just feel healthy. You feel good. And with that, you know that if you're exercising, your bloodstream is circulating all those nutrients that you digest. So you want to eat good foods with that. It's just an automatic. And then if you start eating good foods on top of your exercise, and then you start diving into other things that make you healthy. And it's just a cascading effect in a good cycle. So I would say exercise, because that cascades to every aspect of your life. So I would highly recommend exercise just because of the influence it has on other areas of your life as far as health goes.
Awesome. It truly is the fountain of youth and the elixir and one of the absolute musts of a healthy lifestyle. Awesome. Thanks for sharing
Absolutely.
that. And my last health hack is something called HeartMath. You put a sensor on your ear, and there is a app, heartmath.com. And what it does, Gordy, is on the app, you can tell if you're in synchronicity or if you're in coherence. Coherence means when you're breathing slow and calm, you're in parasympathetic mode. That means your brain and your heart and your nervous system is in coherence, working together. And when that happens, you're in parasympathetic mode, meaning you're cool and calm and relaxed. You can perform at your best in parasympathetic mode versus fight or flight, sympathetic dominance. And we talked about stress and inflammation and meditation and all these things in the past. But this is a really, really neat device to train people to breathe slow. And it's proof that we're in parasympathetic mode, and our brain and heart and our lungs are all working synchronistically to be happy and healthy and relaxed. And so HeartMath, been around a long time. And I really, I think it's kind of cool I check in I don't do it every single day, but I check in and just to make sure I can just zap into parasympathetic mode. If I get stressed, like you said earlier, you can, write things out, journal things out, gratitude, a lot of different things, go to the gym, exercise. But I really like to kind of check in to make sure I'm in synchronicity and coherence.
That's great, Mike. Thanks for sharing. My final health tip is chiropractic care. We have a structure, and inside that structure is the nervous system. And we all have accidents, injuries, slips and falls, maybe heredity factors, maybe at the computer, punched over, or poor posture, or we're carrying bags or heavy. Some occupations require bending, twisting, turning. So we all have some degree of stress on our spine. And I think it's critically important to de-stress the spine, to reduce these subluxations or these misalignments or this nerve stress so your body can optimize its potential. And there's so many studies that are ongoing to validate chiropractic for varying different conditions that most people won't even associate with chiropractic care. So there's some really exciting stuff going on in the chiropractic profession, but I would encourage people to look into chiropractic care. And I'll put some references in the comments section if people are interested in learning more. So that is my final health tip, Mike.
All right. Here's a bonus. When I use red glasses if I'm on my computer the last hour before bed, which I don't do a lot. And they just go over my reading glasses. So red glasses really protect us from the blue light, so that can disrupt our sleep as well. And I'm not on the computer a lot during the day, but blue blockers are kind of fun to wear if I really had to do some research and do some things during the day or on the weekend. And I would use blue blockers. That's kind of a bonus. TrueDark.com is the company that I use for red glasses and blue blockers. A lot of science on that too, Dr. Gordy. So blue blockers and red glasses are amazing. Mm-hmm. So here's the question of the day is, what was your number one takeaway that you could share with a family member at your next meal? What really intrigued you? What really caught your attention? What did you relearn, or what did you learn for the first time? What could you do some research? What can you talk over dinner or lunch with a family member that really, really intrigued you? What's your number one takeaway that you could have a discussion with someone? And then number two, what's your number one action step that you can walk away? Is it you're going to take out a piece of paper and write down 101 goals? Is it you're going to just get back to the gym or start exercising and maybe talk to someone about supplements, or look at InfoPathy.com or some of these other websites that I gave you? What's your number one action step that you're going to take after listening to us that either inspired you or brought back good memories, or that can move your health in the right direction? That's the question of the day. So next week, we are going to be talking about the number one killer in America. Okay. The number one killer in America is heart disease and heart-related issues. And we're going to talk about all aspects of that and how to have a really, really healthy heart. Okay. It's really, really critical when it's the number one leading cause of death. Right. And so, Gordy, I'm kind of curious. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to try to find out how many people die each year of heart disease. And I want to tell people, we'll talk about the neurological components of our nervous system as a chiropractic point of view, what controls the heart. But there's a lot of lifestyle things that we talked about today that could really benefit your heart. So I think that's a really important episode to talk about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mike. We'll cover in detail conditions of the heart and how you can optimize your heart potential as well. So just want to say thank you to the viewers, and please subscribe. Please like our content. If you have an idea for an episode that Dr. Mike and I could do feel free to put that in the comments section, and we're always grateful for comments as well. So until next episode, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.